It's raised.
And is all three of your hands raised?
Mine's raised.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think that anyone that could ever do that to a child, let alone multiple children, can change, especially when I'll be stuck with what happened to me for the rest of my life.
I'm afraid there is no help for me, that I am broken and twisted and tainted beyond repair. And there are 3 witnesses that is true.
And you heard correctly. He has 3 victims, including his stepdaughter. Now, he was only just convicted 8/30/2021, yet up for parole, by the way, for his second time already in 2024. Now, to add insult to injury, when the judge handed him down his sentence, he had 4 different sentences with a release date of 2049. But we know better than that. We know that the sentencing in Utah, it's just a gimmick. It's a tool that they use to trick the victims, to trick the survivors, to blast out press releases about how tough their sentencing guidelines are. But they have parole eligibility after 1 year. Now, what's interesting about this case, at least in my opinion, is that I do believe he is being genuine when he tells the parole board that he is afraid of what he might do if he gets released. Will Utah take that into consideration before making their decision? Will they take the victims, the survivors' impact statements, and we're about to hear 3 separate impact statements? Will they take that into consideration before they make their decision? Well, I'll tell you the result. I'll tell you their decision at the end of this hearing.
At this point in time, are there any errors or inaccuracies from that disclosure packet that you'd like to discuss?
Just that I've been incarcerated for over 5 years, and I was told that would count, and the packet doesn't seem to equal that.
So you've been given credit for time served 809 days before arriving at the prison, and then you've been given credit for time since you arrived in September of 2021.
Okay, so then I was misunderstanding what the numbers were in there.
I believe so, yeah. But I can double check that if you'd like and make sure everything's correct.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to note at this time?
That was it.
Okay. So it looks like what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over your conviction, sentence, your parole guideline date. From there, we will review the facts. There's 2 cases in which you were committed to prison. We'll briefly talk about what happened in those cases. From there, after that, we'll do the victim impact testimony. After that testimony, Mr. Cameron, you'll be able to respond if you'd like to. From there, I have some questions for you about what you've been doing recently, your plans moving forward. And then at the end of the hearing, I'll let you have the final word and you can state anything further that you'd like to. So it looks like your commitment offenses are 4 counts of a child, felony 2. You're serving a sentence of between 2 years and up to 30 years in prison. That is, I believe, the 2 cases each have felony 2, 1 to 15-year sentences. The cases were entered consecutive to each other, so maximum of 30 years. That sentence, as of now, will expire on July 13th of 2049. That is the longest amount of time that the board can retain jurisdiction over your case and your incarceration. Your parole guideline calls for 64 months of incarceration. That guideline passed actually yesterday, November 13th of 2024. That includes the 809 days of credit for time previously served. The board is not bound by that guideline. They can release you at any point up until the expiration of sentence. And in making that determination, the board will consider your case as a whole with all relevant factors, including the nature of your offenses, victim impact and input, your criminal history, your rehabilitative progress, etc. The first case we need to talk about is case 191403227. In this case, between August of 2018 and July of 2019, you used your 11-year-old stepdaughter on multiple occasions. The official version of the case says that this abuse consisted of touching the victim's pelvic area with your hands, skin to skin, and also touching the victim's breasts. Is that accurate as to what happened in the case?
Absolutely.
Your written submissions before this hearing today said that you, quote, inappropriately touched this victim on 2 occasions. Is that accurate? That's your statement?
Yes.
The second case, case 191403879, in 2018, you touched an 11-year-old victim inappropriately while she was having a sleepover with her cousin. The official version states the victim woke up and you were touching her vagina over the clothing. In 2019, you touched a 13-year-old victim's over and under her brassiere. I've read your written submissions. You said you touched the victim of the first case, her cousin, through her bra, and at a different time touched a friend of theirs through a blanket. Is that accurate as to what happened in the case?
Yes, it is. Very much so.
And what led to you using these victims?
I did not know at the time. I did not understand why I would do those things wrong. I knew they were wrong. I felt they were wrong. And yet somehow at the time it happened, it felt right. It felt okay that I was giving them pleasure and getting pleasure from that. And clearly I was confused. I have taken the SOTP pre-program, and I'm currently in the core program.
Yeah.
And I've also taken Inside Out Dad, which really well supported that program. And it seems that I felt like I was gaining some power from it. I was gaining some acknowledgement, some I still have a hard time explaining it. I felt like I was getting recognition and attention. And I was wrong.
Thank you for your statements. I obviously we'll discuss and I'll review your programming. You can make further comments if you'd like to. I did want to clarify, is it your statement that no additional abuse has occurred in your history outside the 4 instances of abuse that you've reported? Is that accurate?
That's accurate. That's as I'm aware, yes.
As far as you're aware, how do you mean?
These girls I was alone with, I had an opportunity, and I haven't had that opportunity with anyone else. So
Okay.
I haven't done that with anyone else as far as I'm aware.
Okay, I do note in case 191403227, the court ordered about $106 in restitution. I think the board also previously returned both cases to the court for restitution determination. Future orders of restitution could be made. They would need to go through the sentencing court. Have you paid any of the restitution that was ordered?
I have no money.
Okay. Are you willing to pay any restitution that you owe or that is ordered in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay. At this time, we'll do, is it okay if we proceed with Isabella, then Madison? Is that order okay with you all? Not, I'm asking them if that's okay with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you would, all 3 of you actually, don't turn your cameras on, but just raise your right hand and let me know when your hand is raised. I'll swear you in.
It's raised.
And is all 3 of your hands raised?
Mine's raised.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth at today's hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. And we'll start with this. You may proceed with your statement when you're ready.
My name is Lisa, and I'm here to talk about how Harold affected my past and how it could affect my future. And as a kid, I thought what happened to me was normal, and I remembered feeling disgusted with myself. And after it happened, I felt like I didn't matter to anyone, and I felt like no one cared what I did, so I acted out by doing things that a normal teen would not do. Also, I thought it was normal to give away something I had no control over. And but I now realize none of that was okay and will never be I will never be the same or live a normal life. That's it.
Thank you for being here and providing your statement. I will include your words into my report, and the Board of Pardons will consider those as they make a decision. Thank you. Are you ready at this time?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you may proceed when you're ready.
Okay. My name is and I'm here today to share my experience as a victim of sexual abuse. What happened to me is something that affected my childhood and something that will continue to affect me my entire life. As a victim of sexual abuse, I've been told that I'm strong and a survivor when really I just feel disgusting and ashamed. When I was just a little girl, I had my innocence taken away from me. I still remember what he did to me and exactly how I felt in those moments. And that is something that I will never forget. I remember being scared to fall asleep at sleepovers in case anything was to ever happen to me. I remember feeling alone and not understanding why this was happening to me. I found unhealthy ways of coping with this and always asking myself what I did to deserve what happened to me. I've come to accept the fact that I will never be able to have a regular relationship without explaining why I am the way that I am. I don't think that anyone that could ever do that to a child, let alone multiple children, can change, especially when I'll be stuck with what happened to me for the rest of my life and I didn't even have a choice. That's it.
For your statement today as well, I'll include a summary of your statement for the board, and they will consider it in their decision. And are you ready at this time?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, and you may proceed when you're ready to.
Hi, and I just turned 17. Okay. I'm not old enough to vote. I can't drink. But I am old enough to have somebody touch me in a way that they weren't allowed to, who I was supposed to trust with my life when I was just a kid. I don't feel safe with the defendant anymore, and I don't feel safe with almost anybody anymore. I will not let anybody really touch me sexually wise anymore because I can't do that anymore. I just can't because of what happened. And it's the fact that as of my age, I'm not even an adult, and I know that's not okay. But the defendant, who is over 30, did not understand what was wrong with touching children and abusing kids, multiple kids, in that way, when as a child, I know that is wrong. I can't even vote, but I can get touched that way. I would like you to remember that. and I don't feel safe with the defendant or actually really any man anymore. Thank you.
Thank all three of you for being here today. I appreciate it. I will summarize your statements into my report that I will submit after today's hearing to the members of the board, and your input will be considered as they make a decision. Mr. Cameron, would you like to respond to those statements?
I would. They are right. Their feelings are completely valid. And I was beyond wrong. They're my heroes for being willing to step forward. I'm glad they were willing to speak up. I'm glad they're willing to speak today. I was abused as a child. I recently got a letter saying that I was sexually abused. I don't believe that, but the physical abuse was enough. I was not right in the head, and the only way to get right is to get the help I need. I'm getting some of that now. Whether I get released or not, I will pursue corrective measures. And I'm not sure I'll ever be okay. I'm afraid to be released. I'm afraid to be released because of what I have done. I'm afraid there is no help for me, that I am broken and twisted and tainted beyond repair. And there are 3 witnesses that is true. I feel like the programs I've been through have helped me understand why I was so wrong.
Okay. Real quickly, I do want to go through, I will note your statements there. I note that you successfully completed the pre-SOT program, Inside Out Dad. You've been in the core program since May of 24. We received a sex offender treatment summary document. Did you receive a copy of that document?
I believe so, yeah. In the blue packet, right?
Yeah, it's in the blue packet. So it states that you self-removed from the pre-SOT program in Sanpete County in December 22. You said at that time it was not a good fit, but it notes you later successfully completed the pre-SOT program in May of 2024. Why did you self-remove the first time?
Didn't trust any of the people involved. I didn't feel like I could trust them. That I have no faith in people. I want to learn to have faith in people, but I don't.
So that document, it identifies an average risk of reoffense using the standard assessment tools that the program uses. It notes you have been in course since May of 2024. It says that you struggled initially to take accountability for your life and seemed to have resentment towards others and have a feeling of powerlessness or helplessness. It says you've been addressing or working to address those things in treatment. It says you've attended appropriately. It says at times you've struggled with motivation and struggled to complete your assignments, but there's been some improvement in that area. It talks about risk factors as general social rejection, poor problem solving, negative emotionality, and deviant sexual interest. It also notes sexist coping, impulsivity, and negative social support. Would you agree with those risk factors, or what do you view as your risk factors in your case?
I would agree with the assessment. I don't understand what risk factors are affecting me fully yet. I have a lot of work to go before I could even get close to it. And as I said, I really feel like I'm broken beyond repair. And so I struggle with it every step of the way, especially when even the littlest thing anytime anyone trusts me, I get terrified. I'm doing my best.
Okay. It does note, so based on your average risk score, it says you should receive the same amount of treatment and supervision intensity, quote, as the typical person convicted of a sex crime. It notes that if and when you are released, you'll likely need to transition through a halfway house. Talks about a history of mental illness. And some, it says, quote, you reported, quote, having a disability in the past, struggled to maintain a job. It recommends that if you are granted release, that you receive vocational assistance. It says also that it recommends that you participate in ongoing mental health treatment to manage ongoing risk factors for sexual recidivism and barriers to optimal functioning. It makes recommendations first that you complete the sex offender treatment program inside the facility. It says that if you continue as you are continuing right now, you're expected to complete that program by, quote, the second week of January 2025. It notes, ongoing mental health treatment, that if you're released, you'd likely need to transition through a halfway house, and that you receive the same treatment and supervision intensity as, quote, a typical person convicted of a sex crime. But what are your thoughts about those recommendations?
I don't know what the typical treatment of an average person committing a sex crime is. I know that I need targeted therapy, not just for the I need to be able to help. I need help fully accepting and understanding what happened to me. And I need more help understanding the impact I've had on my victims.
Okay.
I won't make any excuses. I'm afraid I won't be able to get the help I need.
And just so you know, if you are granted a parole, that would include Group A sex offender conditions. Part of that would be to get an evaluation and comply with any recommended treatment. That would be continued care. And what is deemed appropriate would be kind of worked out through your supervisor and through your treating therapist. That is kind of how I understand the language of what is the typical individual or average risk. On the topic of Group A conditions, if you're granted parole, those conditions also would include no contact with your victims unless approved, having no contact with any children under the age of 18 unless approved, not date anyone with children under the age of 18, living with them unless approved, not go where children congregate or would be reasonably expected to be, not possess stimulus material, have your residences and or jobs approved by adult probation and parole. And on that note, I think in both cases, a continuous protective order was entered on behalf of the victim. So that on top of any condition of parole would preclude victim contact. Are you willing to abide by those conditions?
Absolutely. I don't want to cause any more harm. I, 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 I have done enough wrong. And I would like to make sure there is no chance of it happening again.
Just back to the SO assessment, it said that as of now, you're expected to complete the program by January 2025, the second week. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, we seem to be a little behind right now because of the person running the program having some illness and doing some programs to improve their ability to run the program, or
Okay.
another program being, learning about how to do another program. But we're we've made plans to work on catching up to where we should be. So we should still be finishing the core program in the expected time.
Okay. I've read your written submissions about if you're granted parole, what your release plan would look like. I have pretty detailed notes from what you provided to us in writing, but if you're granted parole, what would your release plan look like? Any comments you have on that?
I'm going to try to start a business that is agricultural in nature. And I'm actually hoping to set it up in a place that is less desirable as far as location and place, so that I can use stacked and A-frame farming techniques to produce plants, produce honey and other products of that nature.
Is there anything else that you'd like the Board of Pardons to know?
I'm still struggling. And it's I topped the list. I'm actually afraid to be released because the if I were put in a mental institution or someplace where I was kept away from people, I would like to be able to have more access to research and be able to actually develop a business plan and more fully develop an after plan, not just some vague notion of a business plan. I'll need structure, and I've always had a hard time following through with that. I've tried going to college several times and failed to achieve a degree despite having attended enough college courses to gain a degree. I completed a few things using the tablet we have here, gotten certificates for a few unrelated things because I can't take courses for the related subjects I want to cover. But it keeps me in a mind of being able to study. So that hopefully when I get out, I've got the habits of studying if I get out, that I have the habit of studying and am able to pursue a goal that will be beneficial to the community. And I won't just be a burden on society again.
So what do you think Utah did? What do you think the wisdom of the Utah Parole Board did for a man who stated 3 times that I counted that I am afraid to be released? For a man who said there is no help for me. I am twisted, tainted, and broken beyond repair. For a man who said maybe I can be released into a mental institution. Well, Utah granted. They granted this man parole. Forget all the other aspects of the fact that he had 3 victims, age 11 years old. Forget the fact that one of his victims is still under the age of 18. Forget the fact that he's only served 5 years of his 50-year sentence. He clearly states that he is afraid of getting released. And I think this is the first time that I believe what this roach is saying, that it's not manipulation. I believe that what he is saying is the truth. He is afraid of what he might do when he gets released. Now, they said we're going to grant upon completion of the sex offender program because it's very clear to everybody who's, has PhDs, who's in the top 1%, not a sheeple. We don't understand these things, but clearly you take a class, there's a teacher, there's a room full of other chomos and roaches, and they tell you children bad, adult good, don't touch your 11-year-old stepdaughter and her friends. That's bad. See, this is good. And then when they say those things, it fixes them. We don't understand that because we're just sheeple. It's a psychotic. Part of the problem of the Utah system, I think, is that they have these parole board interviewers. And these parole board interviewers, I imagine they're sitting at their computer and they're filling out a spreadsheet or something. And then at the end of the day, the parole board gets this email sent to them. And what they look for are boxes with check marks. And they say, well, he served this much time. He doesn't have write-ups. He ranks out medium. He's going to take a program which will rank him out low. And it's okay, parole. They don't look at the fact that he actually states like 5 times in so many words that he's afraid to get out. They don't look at the fact that the victims are still hurting and suffering. As Mr. O'Shea out of Louisiana would say, the victim is still adamantly opposed. The victim is still suffering. How can you re-victimize? Just forget what everything that the survivors. Is interesting. She said, and they call me a survivor, and I feel like a victim. Well, yeah, this is going to make you feel like a victim again, like you're being victimized again. Who can you trust when you can't trust a stepfather? When you can't trust your and then the system violates. Who can you learn? Who can you trust? And just think about, we're thinking about just this one moment where we can feel the pain. You can cut the pain with the knife. It's so thick. Think about, their little town, wherever they lived in Utah, and maybe the one school that now she's the girl whose stepfather did this to them, and now they're the group of victims and it's like the stigma that they'd have to carry around. Their whole lives are just literally altered. And the only reason that you could say that they're paroling is because they don't care. And they are looking at pieces of paper. They're looking at they have so many numbers of beds full. They need so many numbers of beds empty. This is it completely lost track of the purpose of the system. And again, this is why we do this. And for those of you who are skeptical about why we do this, why don't you just ask yourself, Up until now, have people been publishing parole hearings? Did anyone know that this is what happened in the deep, hidden darkness of the parole system? They don't want you to see this. Like this is what really gets me is that 99% of us that watch this do not feel good about these outcomes. We feel shocked. We feel really dumbfounded. Here is a man, again, that has stated over and over and over that he is terrified. Let me quote, he said, "I am afraid to be released 3 separate times." And he probably would have said it another 10 times if he had been given the opportunity to speak more. He said, "I have no faith." He said, "I have no faith in people. That's why I dropped out of the program." But okay, forget that part. He said, "I'm afraid there is no help for me, that I am twisted and tainted and broken beyond repair." He actually asked to be released to a mental institution. We have never seen that before. Someone like this, the next step when he's out is to maybe reharm again so he can get put back in prison because that's where he feels comfortable. There are so many outcomes, but you know what I'm going to tell you the outcome's not going to be? He's not going to go buy some land somewhere out and whatever and get a grant and do some farming that he wants to do. I can tell you that's not going to happen. So what routes do you think he's going to go through? It's a ticking time bomb. But what do we know? So, one day investigative reporters and they're going to pick this stuff up and there's going to be outrage and there's going to be a scene and people are going to make noise for 3.5 minutes and then they'll forget and we'll go back to this. But I don't know what the change is. Maybe the change is eventually you just have to, the dinosaurs running our system just have to die out. And you have to get some new blood in there that understand what's actually going on in the world. I don't know. But clearly this is insane. I want to give a special thank you. It's a late thank you to Ray. Ray again, multiple times now. See, there are so many hearings that happen that Ray came in and said, "Hey, Mandy, you missed this one. So thank you, Ray, for pointing it out. Thank you, Sir Richard, as always, for doing everything else." That was the insult injury, too. He was ordered to pay $106 restitution. Can you even imagine? The amount of it probably cost more money just to go through the process of trying to understand how much restitution he should pay. And the bureaucracy of that and whatever they go through than it did for that $100. What is $106 in restitution? What is that? That won't even cover one therapy session. It'll cover like half a therapy session. Who is making these decisions? You have to pay $106. And you know what? He said, I have no money, whatever. Even inmates can come up with $106. Even inmates could pay. He could have paid $1, a week towards the restitution if he actually did care. And I don't believe he cares. He doesn't have empathy. When he says, "I'm afraid to go out," it's not for the victims. He's afraid of what he's going to do, or he's afraid of the world, but he doesn't have any empathy for the victims. I don't think this man can feel empathy. Maybe he just has empathy for himself.
I'm afraid there is no help for me, that I am broken and twisted and tainted beyond repair. And there are 3 witnesses that is true.
And as a kid, I thought what happened to me was normal. And I remembered feeling disgusted with myself. And after it happened, I felt like I didn't matter to anyone.
I'm not old enough to vote. I can't drink. But I am old enough to have somebody touch me in a way that they weren't allowed to, who I was supposed to trust with my life when I was just a kid.
I've been told that I'm strong and a survivor when really I just feel disgusting and ashamed.
Abusing kids, multiple kids, in that way, when as a child, I know that is wrong.